Good morning, readers. All right, this is it. We're starting a new book. We are going to read A Wrinkle in Time, a guide to the universe. This is such a great book. I'm really excited to get reading with it this morning. Now, a lot of you probably have watched the movie that Disney made a couple years ago. Don't get me wrong, it's a decent movie. It's decent. But the book is so much more complex and there's so much more happening in the book. So I want you to forget the movie and join me in the book. All right, let's get started. Chapter 1, Mrs. Witch. One of these three celestial beings responsible for protecting the light from the darkness, Mrs. Witch, wants nothing more than to protect it and nurture the universe. She has been a warrior of the light longer than anyone or anything can remember, and her compassion is equaled only by her radiant power. Lights twinkled all around her, the celestial beings, sisters and brothers, blinking in astonishment as she hurled through space. Dodging around a sapphire planet, she realized she'd need to go further, as far from other life forms as possible. Only her energy was lagging. The bright, fiery core of her heart was strong, but she couldn't afford to wait until she reached the fringes of the universe, or she might not win. And she had to win. She hesitated, weighing her options. Behind her, something in the dark lit out an ominous crackle, clearly thinking she was finished. No, it was something in the dark. It was the dark, a massive, impenetrable. So that word's not working out of my mouth this morning. Impenetrable, meaning you can't penetrate. Impenetrable. So something you can't go through. Cloud of darkness trailing her. Not so fast, you horrid lump, she muttered. I'm not done yet. Calling upon her reserves, she burst into motion, luring the evil to an open patch of space. As soon as her pursuer was clear of other objects, she doubled back. Let's finish this, she called, rocketing toward it. The creature gave a slight shake as if surprised at her daring, but then barreled forward at full speed. Two lights caught up to the battle and wavered on the edges, their emotions coiled in nerves as neither the darkness nor their sister faltered, their paths clearly set on collision. Let the light be enough, the first celestial figure said to herself as the distance shrank. Let me become and rise above the darkness. Boom! The shudder from the impact rippled outward towards knocking the planet into a new orbit, its own star reaching to steady it as the beings on the surface dropped to the ground. The two observing figures swooped down to the clouds to help, hoping to shield the inhabitants. In the sky above, the light and the oily mass were locked together, neither moving. I will not let you pass, the celestial beings cried out as her light burned against the cold fingers of the dark entity, holding it back. Her green rays shifted to white as her spirit grappled with the slippery essence. You can't stop me. Ooh, I guess I need to make it like evil. You can't stop me, a voice hissed. I am everywhere. And while you weaken and fade, there is nothing that can harm me. The light was pushed back a millimeter, and the dark presence oozed into light. There's no use fighting, the voice continued smoothly. You may as well accept me. All your worries would be over. But she would not be fooled, and the universe meant too much to her. She had to protect it at all costs. Summoning all her hope and love for the worlds in her care, the celestial being reached out, and instead of pushing the creature back, she wrapped herself around it in a fierce hug. No! The voice shouted. What are you doing? It withered and shook, trying to break free, but it was too late. The light's gravity held it tight. Shrieking in rage, the creature flung itself at the light, lashing out at her flames, which were now a golden hue. The darkness smoldered everything it touched, violently clawing at the celestial being in an effort to force her to release it. Implacable, she merely held the darkness closer, allowing it to spread over her surface. The fire she kept within blossomed into orange, then a vivid scarlet as she prepared for death, the presence caught in her embrace. I may not be able to stop you completely, but this much I can do. She squeezed tight, feeling no pain as her heat collapsed into the pinpoint at her center. Curling smaller and smaller, the atoms compressed, their energy bouncing together until they could go nowhere but out. Kapow! Light burst from the center of the celestial being, shattering the darkness into fragments as color shot into space between the cracks, illuminating the nearby planet like a second sun, wiping out any shadows in its surface. The sister figures below gasped in awe. The younger of the two quivered and asked, "Will she be okay?" Words were harder for the second figure to manage. She searched for a quote to sum up her feelings. The thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness. Keats, English, she finally replied. Whoosh! A loud roar shook the sky as the light and darkness, spooling out, were suddenly sucked backward towards the celestial being's vortex. With a final pop, the light was extinguished, and all that was left was a gray orb, its surface pitted with craters. It hung motionless. Crouched in the clouds of the closest planet, the younger figure sobbed, her heart aching. "It's all right, my dear," a harmonious voice chimed, as a wisp of air brushed her side. "I knew the price was I knew the price going in, and I was happy to make the sacrifice to slow it down." "Slow it down, but you defeated it. You trapped it here," the youngest figure insisted, but the other visible figure shook her head. "The battle line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man's." Hmm. I sorry, I had to get this together. "The battle line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man," she intoned solemnly. What she meant is that the darkness has already infiltrated many parts of the universe, and what we have done here today is not enough to vanquish it entirely, the invisible presence clarified. "But then why?" the youngest asked, her voice vibrating in sadness. "We are what we do, and it's not our words but our actions that matter," the oldest being replied, her voice bold and strong despite the fact that she had given up her corporal form for now. "It is contained as much as possible, and it may still spread, but it will have to work much harder to extend its reach. You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it," the middle figure, Thatcher, English, the middle figure, proclaimed. An optimist by nature, the youngest shook off her fears. "I'm ready. Count me in. Whatever is needed, I'm here. To the edge of the universe and back. What do we do next?" "Now we must go where we are needed and find those who are suffering to offer what help we can," the invisible being declared, and her words reverberating into the air. "Heroes are made in the hour of defeat. Success is, therefore, well described as a series of glorious defeats." Gandhi, Indian. "Indeed," the oldest said, "where there is strife, we will find the bravest, kindest souls to join our fight against its evil." As one, the three rose into the sky, bursting out of the atmosphere to hover in the infinite reaches of space. With a last glance at the dark orb, which had begun to slowly, achingly spin on its axis, the three beings zoomed away. A pure note of despair soared out into the void and lashed onto their souls. There, in an instant, they folded through space to arrive in a spiral galaxy flooded with stars. The mournful sound tugged them down past clusters of light and meteor fields to a solar system with but one life sustaining planet. Blue oceans, broken by green land masses, covered the surface, but there was a murky haze hovering over it all. And it is already here, the youngest cried out in dismay. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Tutu, South African. She is right. There's always hope, the oldest smooth. I'm really having a hard time this morning. The oldest smoothed. Now, let's find the warriors who will take up our cause. And that is the end of chapter 1. So if they have arrived into a solar system that has only one life sustaining planet, where have they arrived? What is going to be the first setting of our story?